We're back with another episode that I'm so excited about. Today we are talking with one of my favorite people in the entire world, and her name is Jade Albany Pietrantonio. Jade has been in tons of TV shows, including The Right Stuff, 68 Whiskey, MacGyver, and with me, American Playboy, The Hugh Hefner Story, which is where we met. We're going to talk about that show a lot. We're going to talk about the universe guiding us, staying on your path, trusting your intuition and your timing, and all kinds of other good stuff. I'm so excited for you guys to hear what Jade has to say about her journey with creative living and being an actress in this wild town. Enjoy. Yes!
Got it.
Hi, darling.
Hello, my love. How you going?
Good. How are you today?
I'm good. It's sunny in Los Angeles, finally.
We're having a day.
Woo!
So for everyone tuning in, this is the beautiful Jade Albany Pietrantonio coming to us live from Hollywood. But I'm not gonna talk too much about you. I would love for you to introduce yourself in your own words and tell us about your journey becoming an actress.
Well, hello, everybody. My name's Jade Albany Pietrantonio, as Ali so very well pronounced. I'm an actress. I moved to LA 8 years ago to follow the Hollywood dream. What about me? I started acting in theater when I was 11, and I started acting professionally when I was, well, professionally I count from like the first time I booked like a real show. So I started acting like way before, but like the first time I booked like an American TV series or an Australian TV series, I think it was an Australian one first. I can't remember. Oh God, but that was back when I was like 23. So, you know, I've been in the game now for a while. Can't say when, because then you'll know how old I am. And actors don't age.
We never tell. We're always 23.
Always in the bracket from like 19 maybe to like
40.
40-ish.
We'll be whatever you want us to be.
If my manager watches this, he'll be like, you can't play 19. And I was like, rude.
I know, mine too. One time I emailed my manager and I was like, I think this role is perfect for me. And he was like, this office has told me that you do not play this age anymore. And I was like, rude.
Excusez-moi?
You mean I can't play 16? That's crazy.
Just rude. But yes, as you can tell, as Ali knows by my accent, I'm Australian. And I am also Italian. Parlo perfettamente italiano, and I'm a little bit British because my dad lives in London and I have all the British ancestry because, you know, immigrants, criminals,
All the
from
things.
England.
Yeah. So I've said it before, I'll say it again. Jade is one of the most interesting people I have ever met and had the privilege to become close to. But perhaps you could talk to us a little about some of your maybe not TV series stuff, but other things on TV you've done that are like so cool.
My interesting random ways that I've come into this world.
Yeah.
I've done a couple of, you want to talk about this?
I want the world to know who you are.
So I've done a few different things. When I left from school, I always knew that I wasn't going to go to college. And I didn't really fit into the whole school thing. I was very badly dyslexic. English is my second language, which kind of didn't bode well in learning how to write and read. And although I can speak English well, it was like difficult when I was a kid. And then I moved to Italy. So when I was 18, I moved to Italy and I started modeling. And I kind of fell away from acting as much as I loved it and everything. It's just, you know, the real world kind of swept me up. And as stupid as this sounds, I didn't realize that acting was like a career. I thought it was just something that you did for fun on the side. It just never like clicked in my brain that it was something that you could actually do as a career or make money from or struggle to make money with. But you know what I mean? So when I got recruited in as a model in Europe, I started doing that. And then I got the opportunity to go on a reality show called Italy's Next Top Model. And I was on that back in 2009, I believe. And I actually ended up leaving the show because one, everyone was like starving themselves and it just wasn't like a healthy environment, especially modeling like back in the day. It wasn't like the beautiful, healthy image that they can depict now. It was kind of like you got to stay under a certain size. And I ended up leaving the show just because I just didn't, it just wasn't for me either. Like I missed acting. I missed home. I wanted to go back to Australia and I wanted to get back into acting. And I never liked modeling as much as like it's fun to do shoots and travel. It always felt yucky. Like it never really fueled my soul the way that acting did. So I went back home and I went back to acting school, and I was at Byron Bay Film and Television School. And that's actually when I booked my first American TV series. But I was very like in a transitional moment of my life. I'd just gone through a bad breakup, and I was very like, I'm going to just open all the doors to all the possibilities of the universe and see where it goes. So I was in acting school. I booked my first American TV show that was shooting in Australia near my hometown. So I was doing that, but at the same time, I was training to join the military because I wanted to become like an Army Reserves, they're called in Australia. I don't know what they're called here, but you can join the reserves. And so I had like the door of the acting kind of open. I had the military reserves. I was training. There was a day where you would like get on the bus and they'd take you out to the middle of nowhere where you'd start like your first training. And then when I was doing these two things, another random door opened on the side where a friend of mine asked me to drive them to the Big Brother auditions in Australia. And so I was like, okay, sure. They didn't have a car. They really wanted to go. I was like, sure, I'll drive you after work. So I drove them to the audition. And while I was there, they were like, just audition. We play a bunch of like acting games and it'll be a whole bunch of fun. And I was like, you know what? Whatever. My auntie actually was like, just do it. And I was like, okay. So I just did the audition with them and they got out first round and I just kept going through and through and through. So I ended up being on Big Brother, which was hilarious because I just left Italy on a reality show and wanted to get away from it. And I was about to go join the reserves and like I was very confused, but then this door opened and I was like, hey, that's my life. Like I'm going this way, a window opens and I dive through it. So I did a reality show in Australia. It created a whole bunch of amazing opportunities for me. And it's thanks to that actually that I managed to come to America because one, I made a bit of money, but two, it got me a whole bunch of press, you know, paparazzi shoots, magazine covers, working with brands, a whole bunch of incredible opportunities. So I'll always be grateful for Big Brother and to Channel 9 for that. But again, it just wasn't the path that I wanted to be on. So I left Australia, got my visa and came out to America. And then I was like, yeah, I was on the path. But like sometimes a path that seems like, you know, completely off field to what you're doing actually was the gift of being able to get back on track, which was incredible. So as much as like, yes, it wasn't for me, it's not the way that I want to go. I've been offered multiple reality shows since and I've turned them all down because it wasn't my path, but it led me to be able to go the way that I was meant to. And I'm not sure, but I think if that window hadn't opened, I probably would have ended up joining the Army Reserves because I was just, that's where my brain was going. I was training with a recruiter. I was doing all the things. I was passing all the fitness tests and like my brain was going this way. Yeah. So I think God or the universe or whatever you believe in was like, oh, she's going down the wrong way again.
We get her
Hold
back.
on a second.
Yeah.
And it's funny because every time I've sort of veered off the path of acting, thinking like, you know, it's not going fast enough, or I feel like I'm not getting anywhere, or maybe I'm meant to be here or there. Every time it's like, whoop, whoop, nailed me back in. So it's like it took me a minute to just realize, no, this is my path. Just focus. Like,
yeah,
you know, forget all that shit. So yeah, I've actually done 2 reality shows, which is random, but when you hear the story behind them, it was never the point. It just kind of happened.
Yeah, but this is why I wanted you to talk about this, because I feel like I know Jade very well, but I feel like this experience was a major part of what propelled you to come to Los Angeles, which I think is like a big part of this like series of chats is like talking about how we got here. So if you don't mind, I would also love to hear more about like what like really pulled you to LA and like what those first couple years here were like for you.
Yeah, so what pulled me to LA? I mean, I would say especially back then, I mean, we're talking almost 10 years ago now, the place to be, like, I mean, if you're not an actor listening to this, basically there's like three hubs that are like your kind of hubs, and it's your LA, your Atlanta, and your Vancouver, and potentially even maybe London and Australia are starting to creep in there. But back in the day, especially, it was LA. Like, if you wanted to be an actress, LA and Hollywood was always like, you want to be an actress, go to Hollywood, baby. So it was just
Yeah.
sort of in the back of my mind that, like, it was Hollywood. And I can't remember what the book was called, but it was a book by Rob Lowe. And Rob Lowe at the time was on a show called Brothers and Sisters. And I was obsessed with the show. And I remember seeing Rob Lowe's book come out, and it was like an autobiography. And I remember getting it and bought it and was reading it. And I suddenly, it was kind of my like click moment where it was like, holy crap, this can actually be a career that you can pursue. And the way to do it here is Rob Lowe says.
Pablo
Like,
told me so.
right. So I, like, very strangely, Rob Lowe started my acting career as a like career. It was a hobby.
God, I
It
hope
was
he watches this and hears
right,
this.
one day when I'm winning an Oscar, he'll be like, that was me. I did that.
I did that to her.
But he kind of did, because it was just the click moment where I was reading it and I was like, this is place, like, he's talking about the stories in Malibu and all these incredible actors that he's an incredible actor himself, but that they went to school with, and all the stuff, you know, that you read about Hollywood was in his autobiography. So I kind of went, oh my God, I got to go to LA. That's the place to be. So that's when my mind kind of clicked into gear, and I was like, I've got to get to LA. At the time I was living in Sydney. And as I said, I'd booked an American TV show, but I wasn't 100% sure really how to do it and everything, until that really cemented the idea of, he talks about auditions in Hollywood and what to do and what not to do, and some things that he'd learned along the way. And then I booked American Playboy with this lovely lady right here.
For
And
those
how
of
we
you that
met.
don't know and
Yes.
haven't been following Jade and I for years, we met on an Amazon show called American Playboy, which shot in New Zealand. And so you'd come to America and they sent you back down under.
Sent me straight back down under. So basically, yeah, I booked this show, and it's funny, like, because I didn't even know back then, like, what SAG was, and, you know, all this stuff. And we booked this show, but as Ali maybe has spoken about with Kim, they don't really do SAG and things like that there. So it's non-union work. You're sort of thrown into this deep end kind of thing, and it was the most incredible experience. But we're all pretty raw. Like, they cast a lot of no-name actors. We had some amazing, like, established ones, but us, the girls, were still pretty new.
You were
And
pretty
so
green.
we were all pretty green still. So it was also a little bit American Playboy that really cemented. I mean, I'd already been to America at that stage, and I'd gotten my amazing manager who's been with me for like 10 years now. But
I do want to talk about later.
yeah,
Continue.
but yeah, so, and also meeting Ali and meeting Shara, another amazing actress, and we all had this idea, and like, that LA was the thing, and we were all pushing in this direction. So I mean, that was a very long answer, but LA just seemed, especially 10 years ago, to be the only place to go if you wanted to take this thing seriously. Now there's a couple of other options, but back then it seemed to be LA was the spot to be.
Totally.
Yeah.
I love that answer because it still is, you
It
know?
still is, yeah. I mean, there's
Jade
plenty
has
of other
left
markets, but
multiple times and she keeps coming back. We keep
keeps coming
reeling
back.
her back in.
But yeah, Ali and I met on American Playboy, and it was, I mean, I would say that was for both of us kind of the show that propelled us into the Hollywood, like cementing us into the Hollywood hustle and bustle of it all.
For sure. That show like definitely brought me out of like I'm self-submitting and doing like some student films and non-union stuff into like, nope, we're on the path now. Like I have
Yeah.
a good manager now and we're doing the thing.
Yeah.
And it sounds like that was sort of the case for you too. Jade has been with her manager for, as you said, like 10 years, and they have like a fantastic relationship. I'm assuming there will probably be a lot of like young actors watching this who are just starting out. So I thought it would be really lovely because you do have this long-standing relationship that's been really positive. If you could talk about like how you and Reddy first connected and what has been the thing that's made the two of you work so well together.
Mm. I mean, I will say, I mean, everybody knows there is such a huge component of luck when it comes to our industry. You can do everything right, but you still have to have a little bit of that Tinkerbell fairy dust. It's a magical place, the acting land, and you need a little magic to make things work. And I do think that that was like a divine intervention of Tinkerbell fairy magic, just, wand pointed directly at my face kind of thing, because I was with an incredible agency that is now unfortunately split up in Australia, but two incredible gentlemen already had a relationship with my manager. And when I started asking them, I want to go to the States and I want to move to LA, what do you guys think? They actually said, we know a manager, he's wonderful, let us send your stuff. So we sent the stuff. He sent back a scene for me to do and put on tape.
Oh,
So I
interesting.
went into the agency. Yeah. So I went into the agency and I taped with one of my agents this scene for my manager. And after the scene, we had a FaceTime, or it wasn't Zoom back in the day. It was some sort of FaceTime, or it might have even just been a Skype call. Yeah, a Skype call. God, we're old.
I know.
Some people are like, what's Skype? Skype was the old Zoom. God. But yeah, so we did that. And he was like, yep, I'd love to sign you. So I flew out to LA, and I went out to LA for 10 days the first time, and I met him, and I was terrified of meeting this manager, this agent that used to be like at the biggest agency, and then he went off on his own. He had these really cool clients, and I was so excited.
And he's like so lovely, by the way.
He's so lovely, but I was still super intimidated, and I was like, oh my God. But I had 10 days in LA, and I just had the best time, and I lived in like a house full of like 7 other actors from Australia, and it was hilarious. It was a great time. But the thing with he and I mean, why have we been together 10 years? I mean, I think again, it's the fairy dust. I got really lucky that I found someone that like 1,000% just believes in me. I've been dropped by agencies here. I've been dropped twice by agencies. And for the young actors out there, or for people that haven't had an agent for very long, don't be surprised if you get dropped if you haven't worked in a couple of months. Or like I came off 2 shows and I still got dropped by my agency. Like, don't take it personally. Things happen, cry it out and move on. But when it comes to my manager, and I think when it comes to managers in general, your manager is hopefully, if you're lucky, going to be with you for your entire career forevermore. So I think as much as agencies may come and go, if you need a manager that believes in you. And if you don't think he believes in you or isn't there for you, and I don't mean call them every 5 seconds being like, we need to be best friends and why aren't you submitting me? And like, don't hound your manager, because that's like the worst thing you can do. But a natural progression as you work together for longer and longer, you do start to become friends. But yeah, I'm obviously very, very lucky to have found him at the beginning of my career, and I hope he'll be with me till I'm 100, and he's going to live till he's 200, because he's just that sort of guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I will say this, I did audition, there was a process, but he believes in me, and he still does believe in me, and he's with me for the ups and the downs, and he can be really tough when he needs to be, but he's also, when the time comes to be sweet, he can be sweet and calm. And but I did get very, very lucky. I guess if you're starting out and you're starting to find a manager, don't go with the manager that's got the biggest clients, or go with the manager that seems excited about you, because that's the one you want to be with.
You
and sees a future for you, and can see the long haul. The manager that's willing to turn down an episode of something because it's just wrong, or it's leading your career in the wrong way. Someone that identifies with what you're. I'm the fantasy girl. I love superhero stuff and fantasy stuff and Harry Potter and The Hobbit and blah, 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 blah. And, he's very excited about that genre too. And, so it's nice to have a manager that is excited about what you're excited about, and, can see the big picture as well, because your manager is going to very likely not earn a single penny from you or if it maybe $100 like for the first 3 years. So if they're going to be dedicating that kind of time to you, that means they believe in you. Otherwise they would just let you go. So, it's great to have a relationship with someone and then to one day be able to be the biggest client on their board and pay them back for all the times they believed in you. But I guess that's my only like advice would just be, don't settle with someone, find someone that really believes in you and you believe in them, and then you'll be soaring.
Yeah, I love that. I have a memory I've been with my manager for a long time as well. And one time being like very upset about a role I didn't get. And he was like, we're going to be laughing about this when you get your Emmy one day. And I was like, oh,
it's a good
everybody
thing.
needed to hear that. Thank you.
Yeah.
And I think these kinds of relationships are really important in this climate where there is just so much uncertainty. Having a cheerleader who is with you for the highs and lows is like pretty key. And finding these people is not an easy task, but it's worth waiting to find the right person.
Yeah, absolutely. Because as you said, like those moments, you want someone that you can be real with and say, the one agency when they dropped me, I was pretty upset, and he could hear it on my phone, and he was like, okay, you need to cry right now, like that's okay, and then tomorrow we're going to stand up and we're going to be badasses. So like in that moment he knew what I needed, and that's also what a great manager does, because they're in charge of your career as a whole, but in that career comes emotions and ups and downs, and so as much as you want them to be a bulldog, you also need them to be a friend in the moments of tears, because this career will make you cry.
Sure will.
Very often.
Sure will. I have had many moments curled in a ball in my bathroom.
Oh, you and I have had many a time on the couch of just like, I don't know what I'm doing.
What are we doing? Okay. Lovely, lovely answers and insight. I would love to know what you would consider like your best moment or your best memory as an actress in the last 10 years.
Ooh, my best memory, I can always come back to this one. I mean, I guess the answer is twofold. There's a show which was American Playboy where I will always hold that dear to my heart, because one, it was the first like recurring big role, but it's more important the fact that I just made so many best friends from that. Like I still have 3 of my best friends from that show. So that held a very special place in my heart. And I'm sure the same as you, like we got to go to New Zealand. Like it was the most stunning place in the world to go and get to spend all this time shooting with incredible people, a really cool historical show, and then in this amazing country. So for me, like place and people, definitely that. But I shot a show called The Right Stuff, which Ali knows. I was actually living with Ali when I booked the show The Right Stuff.
Can I take a pause and tell a little story?
Yes, please.
Jade had been shooting, I believe, MacGyver.
Yeah.
And she flew home like a day early so she could go to her in-room for The Right Stuff. And she had no time to work on this audition. And we ran it and ran it and ran it. And we found like one really interesting choice she could do at the very end. And then I was like, wait, I have one costume that they gave me from American Playboy. You should wear it. Good luck. Yeah. And you went in and you did it and you wore the dress. And didn't you find out you got it like 2 days later?
I think it was even earlier. It might have been like the next day. I think I was even on hold that night.
Yeah,
like, I think
it was like a pretty magic moment.
Yeah, it was. And the dress you gave me was perfect, because you taken it from American Playboy?
They gave it to me.
Yeah. So it was from
exactly
the 50s,
the
60s,
period.
Exactly the period. So it was just, that's where the luck comes in. The perfect dress. And I was shooting in Atlanta, MacGyver, and I managed to get on a plane, come back. It was a little magical time. But yeah, so I booked The Right Stuff, and that show really made me feel like an actress. And there was a moment where I was flown first class, which I'd never flown first class before that. And, a car comes to your house and picks you up in a black, like big whatever Chevy car. Mrs. Jade, here's the door, like a guy in a suit, and they take you to the airport and you go through the special lines and you get on first class, and like they feed you with like glass and proper plates, and I was just like, what is happening?
I'm a somebody.
I'm so fancy right now. And then they pick you up from the airport. Someone's there. They collect your bags for you. Like, it's all very bougie. I don't need any of that stuff, but it was very, very nice. And then you go to a 5-star hotel and they're paying me to live this life that I would do the whole thing for free. And like,
You'd pay to do it.
Get paid to live your dream. So that all VIP kind of treatment, staying in a hotel, like I really felt like, oh my God, I'm a working actress. I'm picked up, I got driven to set, I'm getting hair and makeup. And then it just felt even more special because one, I got to do a really cool scene where I finally got to like act. You know, a lot of co-stars and guest stars and stuff, when you first book them, you're kind of playing yourself. You might have a couple of lines and the emotional range is maybe not so high. Maybe you're just, passing by the scene or whatever it is. But this was a chunky piece of dialogue and a chunky scene where something dramatic is happening. So, not only am I getting in a wig and a costume, and as soon as that wig would come on and I'd like put the dress on, my posture would change. And, I just started feeling like Reen, and the character would like flow out of me. So it was a cool moment for that, because it was like I would put her on layer by layer, from the wig to the costume to the makeup to the whatever. And the way I'd walk was different. The way I'd hold my hands were different, because I just slowly become Reen. And then not only to become Reen and then to get to set, but have a scene that was like, I got to act like when I was doing theater, I was acting. I was a different person for the entire day. And not to say that the other shows didn't do that, but it was when you ask what thought, like what scene or what character, she really sticks in my head, because it was the first time I got to do that on a TV show for a extended period of time, because I got to do 6 episodes as her. And so I mean, The Right Stuff, and also again, that was the time when I worked with a cast that was just phenomenal. There was every single woman and man, astronaut and wife, were fabulous. Everyone, there was no egos. Everyone was so talented, working with these people that was just like mind-blowingly talented people, and people that I've looked up to. And, so it was, again, just one of those moments where everything combined, and we're shooting in Florida, and I love heat and humidity. So everything combined just created this like perfect bubble of, this is incredible. So it's still one of the happiest memories of my life, shooting that show.
I love that. I just had another memory from that audition. As Jade mentioned, we were living together when she booked this, so I know all the things.
You know all of it.
But I also remember casting asked you if you would be willing to change your hair at the end of your audition, and you were like, yeah, hair grows.
Absolutely.
Like, auditions and parts don't grow on trees, but my hair does. So yes. And they were
That's exactly what I said, right?
Yeah. And I remember they like loved that answer, loved that like attitude. And I think that really speaks to like, as an actor, like part of our job is to be pretty malleable, right? And I think you really showed how malleable you could be to those casting directors in that moment, which on top of a great audition, probably like really sealed the deal for them. And she didn't end up changing her hair, but
no, thankfully, actually, in the end. But I would have done it very easily. But for American Playboy, I had to dye my hair every like 4 or 5 days, and my hair really took a beating. And it was going to be the same thing, like bleach blonde, and I was going to do it, but it just turned out that they wanted a particular hairstyle that was very specific, and my hair being like, right now I've waved it, but my hair is dead Morticia straight and very, very fine. So this specific like big thing that they were trying to do just wasn't going to be, it just wouldn't have happened with my hair. There was no way. They would have had to put in pieces, and it would have taken so long. So the hair person just said, actually, I'm going to do a wig. So I was silently cheering for that. But, I'm here to be an actress. I moved all the way over to America. I'm not with my family. I've got my best friend Ali here, but I'm away from most of my friends and my family. And so if I'm going to say no to a role just because I don't want to dye my hair, that's the stupidest thing ever. Like, then go home. You got to make sacrifices and your hair will grow back. So, Charlize Theron shaved her head. Like, Stranger Things, shaved her head. If they ask you to shave your head, it would be tough, but you just do it. Otherwise, what are you doing here?
Yeah.
It'll grow. You'll be okay.
Totally. Speaking from experience, I have cut my hair for a role.
Yes. Oh my God. When I met Ali, her hair was like here. And that show, they changed our hair so much. And one of the girls was brunette and whatever. So we were all sitting around, what was it, like lunch or something one day? And Shara goes, "Oh, you wouldn't believe one of the girls on the show was like, you wouldn't believe what I looked like." And we're like, what would you look like? And she showed us this blonde, honey golden sun-kissed woman. And there's this brunette sitting in front of us. And we're like, oh my God. And then you were like, well, let me show you what I looked like. And Ali had hair down to her like waist or butt almost. They like cut it up to here. Mine was like bleach blonde, like white blonde on the show. And it wasn't that before, but it's funny to see the transformations but to me, I don't know, maybe not for everyone, because I do hear a lot that people refuse to change their appearance, but I feel like that's part of getting into character. And for me, it's exciting, at least. Maybe not for everyone, but personally, I find it very exciting to watch the transformation from Jade into whatever character I'm playing, because this character isn't me and it's a different everything. So when the appearance is quite different, I love it. It really helps me get into character.
Yeah. Would you say that's like part of your process as an actress and finding like your character? Like, do you really prefer to like become them, or like how do you do that?
Yeah, I much prefer I'll use self-taping or auditions as something. Some people just audition just in a black t-shirt every time, or just like very plain. I love to find a nuance that is the character. So whether it be they smoke a cigarette, whether it be they chew gum, whether it be they always wear a leather jacket, like I feel the character very much through clothing, which is hilarious because I don't care about clothing. This is what I wear every day. Like I wear jeans, ripped jeans, a hat, and whatever t-shirt. Like I'm not into clothes at all. And maybe that's kind of it. But like if I put in a leather jacket because she's a tough chick or whatever, and the way I walk becomes different, or like definitely placing the character into my body is important for me, because I don't know, that's how she comes, or whoever I'm playing comes out, is the way they walk, the way they talk, the way, if she's a hippie, I'll be barefoot in the audition. If she is a tough nut lawyer, I have to wear the high heels. Otherwise, I don't feel her in my body. Whereas some people don't need to do that. But, I never wear high heels. So if I put on high heels, it's like, boom, there's a presence there straight away.
Yeah, totally. I remember.
You do that?
Sort of. Not as heavy.
Not as much, though, right?
Not as much. I'm a little more cerebral with it. But I do remember speaking to like a quite accomplished actress I had the privilege of doing a play with once. And her like first thing, like the first day of rehearsal, she was like, I need to know what shoes I'm wearing. She didn't care what she was wearing anywhere else. All she needed to know was the shoes, because she was like, that's going to inform so much of like how I move as this character. And I thought that was like so brilliant to figure out right off the bat, like, this is how I'm going to move, and I'm going to learn how to do it in these shoes immediately. Yeah.
I think if someone is maybe really like fashion conscious, you're really good with your outfits and planning these beautiful outfits, and you dress very differently. Like you've got a spectrum of amazing things you wear. So maybe that's just part of your like, daily expression. Whereas if it's not, like for me, a different pair of shoes can set me off into a completely different personality, if that makes sense. But I tend to do that anyway. I mean, you know me, I'm a little bit weird. A lot weird.
We're all like, a little bit weird.
A little bit weird. But that's kind of me. When I'm in Australia, I'm one person. When I'm in America, I'm often one person. When I'm in London, I can't talk in anything but a British accent. Like I completely change into a completely different person, and I tend to dress very differently. I tend to actually dress more like upscale when I'm in London. And when I'm in Australia, I don't ever wear any shoes. Like I go shopping to the supermarket, I don't wear shoes. I hate shoes when I'm in Australia. And I get very tomboy. And like, you know, it's just, I feel like we all have, well, especially actors, we all have all these multiple personalities inside us bouncing around ready to escape to play a character. But mine tend to bounce out depending on my environment.
I love that.
Depending on my clothes.
Yeah. Well, I think we have time for like one more topic. And I think what would be interesting to talk about, especially right now when we're all kind of in a low, quiet moment in Hollywood.
Again,
we just talked about your best moment, but I would also love to talk about like maybe like your worst moment and what you did to take care of yourself through that.
Yeah. My worst moments, golly. I mean, honestly, so for those that aren't part of the wizarding world and are part of the muggle world, right now it's a low moment because there's a writer's strike looming. So, you know, anyone in the industry is very well aware of this, and there's a 3-week probably to wait until we have an answer. And if there is a strike, it could be a few months of nothing, or it could be a week of nothing. We just don't know. So everyone's kind of holding their breath, which is, you know, during the pandemic, it was the same kind of thing where everyone just didn't know. So everyone was kind of on hold. I will say personally, right now I'm okay because I know for a fact, and if you're a young actor watching this, or if you're worried, it is the entire industry. You know, just read Deadline or Variety. It's everyone. It's not you. There's no auditions. There's nothing happening. Just peace, goose fraba, as they say. But I do okay in these moments because I just know that it's just a fact. It's got nothing to do with me. And you can push against it, but you can't do anything. It's like slamming your head into a brick wall. So in these moments, I'm okay. But my worst moment actually was back when I was about 27. And this was before I booked a bunch of amazing shows, but like I'd been here a while. My visa was expiring. At the time I was on just a normal visa. I'm lucky now I have a green card, but I was not really getting anywhere. I was watching other people get some places, and the worst thing you can do is compare yourself to other people because it's just every journey is so different. You cannot repeat someone else's journey. It's just not the way it works. But it's literally impossible. But that was my worst moment because my visa was ending. I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to afford or get another visa. I had won the green card lottery, but it looked like it wasn't going to be approved because of my dual citizenship. And I was very lost, and I'd sort of decided to blame LA and be like, well, LA is not the place for me. I need to move to Vancouver. So I'd set in motion moving to Vancouver, and I was kind of done with LA. I said goodbye to everyone. I still knew that I wanted to be an actress, but I was very depressed. I was very sad. I was crying almost every day. I didn't feel like I was getting anywhere. I felt like I was moving through mud. I didn't, you know, I was just lonely. I missed my family, and I don't know why Vancouver was the answer in my brain, but I think it was just a starting again in a new place, and, you know, maybe getting somewhere else, which now that I'm older, I know that like throwing a grenade on your life like that and just trying the same thing in a different place just ends up in the same place. Unfortunately with LA, and I hated this when someone told me it's going to take you at least 3 years to feel at home. It is absolutely true. It took me 3 years to feel at home here or feel like I was getting somewhere. And this was still like 2.5 years in or something, or 2 years in. So I decided to leave, and I was gone. And then I was in Italy, and I was going to Vancouver 3 days later, and I got my green card, and I came back, and I don't know if it was just the energy shift, or if it was my brain that shifted, or the luck that shifted, or who knows what it was. But I just suddenly started getting somewhere again. And, you know, it took 3 years to develop relationships with casting directors. And, you know, if you're not booking the job, but the same casting director is calling you in again and again and again, you are booking that job every time in your brain because the casting director just said yes. So you got another one, and then another one. So that is a win. You've got to hold on to those wins. But it took like 3 years to have casting directors that started to know me. And, you know, it was a really hard time. But now that I'm older and wiser, I realized that was actually probably the biggest growth time, was when I thought I was doing the worst. because
Right.
you're getting close but not booking is actually the best time. You know, when you're starting to get calls by the same people, that's when, you know, you're doing the right thing. But I think I just panicked and thought I need a new area.
Yeah.
But hindsight's 2020. We've got to all go through our
Me
little
too.
phases.
I love that answer that you had to like go through kind of the fires of hell to emerge
Yeah.
renewed and ready.
Yeah. And LA's like that. You need to sometimes leave and take a breath. Sometimes
Yeah.
you need to take a breath, take a mental health check, take a moment to just be like, am I sure? Yes. And then you come back with like a fire.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Jade. I think we're gonna
Of
run out.
course.
My heart. I just love that so much. I particularly love Jade talking about how she has tried to leave and somehow she just keeps getting pulled back by some greater force. I think having that sort of trust with yourself and what you're doing is really important and part of being an artist. I hope you guys enjoyed that chat as much as I did. Thanks so much for tuning in and make sure you subscribe. Next time. See you next time.